Hey guys, Chris here from Mystic Cycle Center, and we're going to do a little flat tutorial today on a rim brake road bike. So we constantly have this question, how to fix a flat and whatnot, and the biggest thing is when you get a flat, you don't want to panic. You don't want to get frustrated, so we flip the bike upside down. The easiest way to get the rear wheel off is to shift your bike into the small ring. So your hardest gear in the back, your easiest gear up front. Easy way to remember that is small. If you have a single ring up front, that single ring is fine. You just want to shift into that small gear. So we've done that. You want to stop the wheel so you're not getting your fingers caught in it. Come into the back, and with a rim brake like we're working with today, you're going to open up the brake track. So that's a little lever that's on the most side of the brakes on a rim brake bike. And then if you're working with a disc brake, there's no release necessary. This lever you're going to open up like this. There's no litigation tabs on the side here to keep the wheel from falling out in the rear. You're going to take your derailleur, and there's a little tab on the back. You're going to push your thumb up against that and push the derailleur out of the way, and the wheel will come right out. Once you have the tire out, I always recommend keeping as if you're over the bike. So the drive side is always on your right side, as if you're riding the bike. You take your valve cap off. If there's any remaining air left in it, you're gonna air this down. You're gonna let all the air out. We've got a flat tire, so there's no air left. You're gonna take your lock ring off on a Presta valve. If you don't have one, this is a skip step. As for the tire itself, we're gonna grab a tire lever. Usually this will be in your flat pack right underneath your seat, or sometimes it's strapped to your down tube. We're gonna start away from the valve. We're gonna break the bead all the way around. Some beads get stuck, and it's just, it's a pain in the butt to try and get the tire lever under. This one came off pretty easily, so we're gonna push this away, get the tire lever in. When you push, you always want your palm out, so you're not gonna gouge your knuckles against the spokes. So that comes around, you want about 90 degrees, and then you come around and do a full 360, okay? That gets one side off. You wanna get back to the valve, pull the tire over, and remove your tube, okay? You can use your bike at this point to lean that up against. You can inflate this to find the tube. Today we'll just be fixing the tube itself, putting a new tube in and not fixing this tube itself. So we'll wrap this up and put it into our bag. The new tube you'll unfold it. You will want to make it take shape. If you're using CO2, you can blow it up to take shape. You can also use a hand pump that you might have strapped to your bike. I like to close the valve at this point because you won't let the remaining air out of it because there's not a lot in here to begin with. Once you have that taken shape, you can sling it around your shoulder so it's not going to fall off. And you want to check your tire for any thorns, any wires, any pieces of glass. And what I'm doing is I'm rubbing the inside of the tire and I'm visually checking the outside. You can also do this with a paper cloth, and the cloth will actually get stuck on any thorns before your fingers get pricked. It's a little less painful way to do it. Once you have taken any thorns or pieces of wire or anything out of your tire, it can be very cumbersome, but you want to make sure it's gone. You want to check your rim strip and make sure that it is properly aligned. This one looks good. It's in the cavity of the wheel. It's a tiny rubber rim strip, but it definitely does the job. Once you have everything properly aligned, you will take your tire. And once again, we're over the bike, so the cassette is on your right side. You take your logo, and you just want to center your logo. It looks good. It's not mandatory. And you also want to make sure your tire is facing in the right direction. So I'm looking at the sipes, or the sipens on this. I think that's the right term. And it's actually pointing towards me. So you want to make sure it's facing in the right direction. This tire, you wouldn't notice a difference riding. Some you would, but it just helps to have it in the correct orientation. What I'm doing is I'm gonna set it down in the bead cavity like that, in the rim cavity, and then just kind of work the tire around. Some tires are a little bit easier, but it will go onto one side much easier than the other. So at this point, you have one side on, your tube is taking shape. You're going to go right into this area here and get your tire away from the rim cavity, and then you're going to put the valve in. It might take a little bit of wiggling, but you can get it in like that. And then work your tube around getting it into the tire itself. This part is necessary. You want to get the tube into the rim itself. So the tire is one thing, and then you want to make sure that it is sitting inside the rim cavity. Once you have that done, you're going to work from the bead, or from the valve, you're going to work the bead into the wheel. That's very important, is to start at the valve. When you take it off, you want to start away from the valve. When you put it on, you want to start with the valve. So this is on my side, and I'm getting the bead into this side of the rim. You work your way around. See how I'm squatting? A lot of times you can push it right into your stomach or your belly, and you can work this way, and it's much easier. You'll get to this point, you don't ever want to use a tire lever, okay? You have plenty of room back here to fit the rim, or the tube and tire into the rim cavity, and you'll get to this side, and it's this last little bit that can be tighter on some tires. Some tires you can just roll it on. Other times you'll have to take your hands and roll it onto the rim. You don't ever want to use a tire lever. You will pinch your tube. So now we're going to take our little lock ring. If we have a Presta valve or a Schrader valve with the threads, we're going to put this right back on here. This just has to be finger tight. If you use CO2, this is where you'd use your CO2 gun to air it up. I don't have CO2, and I actually don't have a hand pump. You can also use a hand pump on this. So we're going to use a floor pump today. It's a little cheating, but I don't have a hand pump, and CO2 is, you know, it's a one-time use, so we don't want to waste one of those. Pump's going to go onto here, open up the valve, and what you're going to do is you're going to take shape of the tire. What I'm doing is adding just about 15 to 25 psi into the rim, into the tube. And that way you can make sure to check the bead itself is sat, okay? This is gonna be that line all the way around. You just wanna make sure that it's even, and just like every story, there's two sides to every tire. So we have checked that, it looks very good. And once again, I'm just lightly leaning that up against the bike for just some extra surface area. Hook my pump back up, and I'll check it again around 60 just to make sure. Just to make sure nothing's bulging. You know, your lock ring, I'm just, you know, tightening that up as we go too. And bead looks lovely. It's all sat in there nice and even. This is a little bit of a smaller road tire, so we're gonna go up to about 95. When you're taking a pump off, a lot of people break Presta valves. If you take your fingers and flick, the pump will come right off, whether it's a hand pump or a floor pump. You want to tighten this the Presta valve up. You put your cap back on if you have one. Caps aren't necessary, but they do keep the dust out of there. And then you're going to spin the wheel around because the bike's upside down. Just like we took off the wheel, you're going to take that derailleur, push it up with your finger, holding it right here with your pointer finger. You go underneath the bottom side of the chain, or the top side when it's upside down. You're aligning it. Remember, we shifted down to the smallest cog. You're lining that up with the chain right there. And in theory, the tire drops right into the bike. Okay, because we didn't have to loosen this, there is no tightening necessary. All you want to do is close that valve, give it a test spin. It spins freely, and you always want to pedal it to make sure you're in the right proper gear and you're not getting that gear smacking that we've all experienced when we accidentally shift our bike without pedaling. Spin your bike back up. You're ready to go.